minutes past the hour. 1 year.
We now join this program in progress.
Shot and killed an unarmed black man running from police. Hundreds of protesters gathered to mark the anniversary and demand the city do more to hold police accountable. The shooting sparked Cincinnati's worst rioting since the 1968 assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. It also led to a tourism boycott by several activist groups. City officials say much has changed since the shooting, but not everyone agrees. Cynthia Bowers brings us up to date.
This was the scene 1 year ago when riots erupted after the shooting of a black teenage suspect at the hands of a white police officer. Tensions that may have been fueled by a historic tendency to sweep racial trouble under the rug. Father Michael Graham of Xavier University was named to a board looking at race relations in Cincinnati.
Nobody likes to wake up in the morning and read about yourself in the newspaper, right? That all of a sudden we were confronted with the hard fact that there's an issue here that has to be addressed in some way, shape, or form.
Over the last 12 months, that issue has gotten plenty of attention. 2 federal investigations were launched into possible police misconduct. A racial profiling lawsuit was filed. On top of that, an economic boycott of downtown business is still underway. Conventions have canceled. Top-notch performers like Bill Cosby have pulled out of appearances. An embargo that has cost the city as much as $20 million in revenue. Boycott organizer Amanda Mays.
Hopefully, the boycott and the activism going on will force change that doesn't seem to be forthcoming any other way.
The longtime cabbie Clavon Woodbridge says the boycott is backfiring and hurting the very people it's intended to help.
Not just cab drivers, it's hurting everybody that's in lower end jobs, you know, like your hotel workers, your fast food, your restaurant workers.
It may not be enough to end the boycott, but just a few days ago, round-the-clock negotiations did produce a tentative agreement that would end a Justice Department probe of Cincinnati police and also settle the racial profiling lawsuit. It could be key to repairing the relationship between cops and the black community. But equally important, says Mayor Charlie Lukens, was just getting everyone to sit down at the same table.
There has been more dialogue between races and people in this city in the last year than probably in the 100 before.
Which is why, he says, a national reputation for intolerance is so hurtful. And it's not just the mayor. Many here feel Cincinnati is getting a bad rap based largely on inflammatory rhetoric, that it's being unfairly singled out when its racial problems are no more or no less than any other major American city.
There are more racial problems in other cities in one day than there are in a month here.
Local restaurateur Jeff Ruby took out a full-page ad decrying the boycott and says no one is served by finger-pointing.
Let's cut the prejudiced attitudes out. Forget about what skin you got. Let's look at what kind of heart you got.
Nobody here says change is going to be easy, nor do they expect it will happen overnight. But the mayor believes the pain has already led to progress.
There is no question that there, as a result of all of that, a lot of energy, effort, and good things are happening in our city that sooner or later we were going to have to deal with. And so is every city in the United States of America.
I'm Cynthia Bowers in Cincinnati.
African-American history grew quite a bit richer with the recent discovery of a manuscript written by a remarkable woman. CBS's Russ Mitchell has her story.
She was very ambitious. She was a naturally gifted storyteller.
Harvard University professor Henry Louis Gates is describing Hannah Crafts, a runaway slave from North Carolina and author of The Bondwoman's Narrative, believed to be the only unedited manuscript written by a fugitive slave. It was recently discovered and authenticated by Gates.
How did you find this? I was reading an auction catalog, the Swan Galleries here in New York, and I'm a junkie for Afro-Americana, for memorabilia of all sorts, and I'm a real collector of rare black books.
The 300-page manuscript about the adventures of a young slave making her way to freedom attracted little attention at auction in February of 2001. But Gates knew that it was rare and valuable. He was the only bidder and got the manuscript for $8,500, significantly less than the $10,000 suggested opening bid. Soon after he began to read the manuscript, Gates realized the voice of the narrative was that of a black woman.
She introduces a black person. Just says, a man entered the room, a woman entered the room, and then a page or a few paragraphs later, you realize that it was a black man or a black woman. This never happened in a book by a white author in the 19th century.
To authenticate the book, Gates enlisted experts to analyze the manuscript's ink, paper, and writing style. They concluded it was written before the Civil War, sometime between 1853 and 1861. Next came the search for the author. Gates traced Hannah Crafts to John Hill Wheeler, a government official opposed to the abolition of slavery. He was a slave owner himself who had a plantation in North Carolina. Gates believes Crafts' access to Wheeler's extensive library allowed her to teach herself to read and write.
She was a light-complected mulatto or octoroon slave who was enslaved in Virginia. They lived in Washington, and then they lived in North Carolina, and it was from North Carolina that she escaped. She escaped disguised as a white boy, dressed in male clothes, and ended up in New Jersey, married a black Methodist minister, and lived probably in one of the all-black towns.
Thank you. All right. The bondwoman's narrative arrived in bookstores this week. Many lined up not only to meet Professor Gates, but to get an inside view of life as a slave.
What I hope to get from this is really a clear perspective on what was happening during slavery and how people thought about their condition.
I would hope that this type of discovery would have a lot of other groups look into their own background for actual documents so that we can really look at more deeply history that was written by folks that were there rather than others.
Gates says the manuscript confirms his belief that there was more literacy among slaves than previously thought.
Your eyes light up when you talk about Hannah Crafts. You like her. I like her. I want to find her. The big frustration for me is that I haven't found her sitting at her kitchen table in New Jersey. And I have no doubt that somewhere there is a scrap of paper with this woman's name on it, and it will turn up in some archive or library, and we'll know even more about her.
Gates says he'll donate the original copy of the manuscript. Although he has already been approached by 2 libraries at Harvard, no decision has yet been made. Russ Mitchell, CBS News, New York.
You're watching CBS News Up to the Minute. In a moment, you can't buy this bridge, and they can't insure it.
Cancer.
The doctor walked into the room and said, "You have cancer, and it's inoperable. You have only 6 months to live." So I turned to my wife and said, 33 years together is not enough. So I decided to fight, and I started looking for options. Our daughter, who is a nurse, told me about Cancer Treatment Centers of America. It's like no hospital you've ever seen. They treated me, the whole person, not just my tumor, with the latest medical technology, nutrition, and supplements to stimulate my immune system to fight my cancer.
To find out about alternative treatment options at our hospitals, call toll-free 1-800-931-0599.
It's been 7 years now. I beat cancer, and so can you.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America, winning the fight against cancer every day.
I love being a paramedic. I love helping people. But I'd get to the call, and I was too overweight. I'd feel like I had to use the oxygen for myself. It was like carrying a sandbag around my waist. I've tried other diets. The Slim Fast plan really works. The website lays it all out for you. It's easy. You can take it anywhere. It's right there. The shakes are really good for me. Slim Fast has the protein and carbs that I need. I feel more physically fit. The energy is a big help. I can do my job better. Knowing that I've helped somebody, it's the best feeling in the world.
Slim Fast. It's your life. Feed it right.
Where is that?
Heartburn. Zantac 75 knows it comes in many shapes and sizes. Brought on by food or triggered by stress. But fast heartburn relief anytime always comes in this shape, this size. Zantac. When there's too much acid, Zantac quickly blocks the strongest acid trigger to relieve heartburn fast. Yet it's so gentle, you can use it anytime. Whatever the shape or size of your heartburn, remember Zantac, the shape of fast heartburn relief anytime.
What's your mood food connection like? Help on how to stop eating because you're down. Wake up to what's happening coming up on The Early Show with Bryant Gumbel and Jane Clayson.
Want to keep an eye on your money? Now there are 3 great places to get the best in financial news: on CBS Television, CBS Radio, and on the web at cbs.marketwatch.com. Follow your portfolio, and when you're ready, trades are just a click away. CBS News, your eye on the market. Dan Rather with the latest on the Middle East crisis tonight on the CBS Evening News.
The Centers for Disease Control is warning about a shortage of childhood vaccines. Experts in Minnesota say it's one of the worst ever and that many clinics have long callback lists of children who've missed one or more of their scheduled shots. Officials blame production delays and a tetanus vaccine maker that stopped production. The world's elderly population will triple in the next 50 years, according to a UN conference on aging underway this week in Madrid. That raises new concerns for Medicare patients, some of whom already can't get an appointment. Randall Pinkston reports.
Hi, Sadie. Hi, how are you doing?
Dr. Mark Kratowski is a primary care physician in a working-class New York neighborhood. He has about 2,000 patients. 1/4 of them rely on Medicare.
I love those patients, and the ones that become Medicare eligible when they hit 65, they continue in the practice. I don't have a problem with that.
But Kratowski does have a problem accepting new Medicare patients. He says he won't do it because the fees the federal government pays him are too low.
I was tired of all the paperwork involved with the patients and making referrals and getting authorizations, and I decided to stop taking new Medicare patients because of those reasons.
Kratowski is part of a growing movement of physicians unhappy with Medicare. According to a family physicians group, 17% of their members have stopped treating new Medicare patients because of a reduction in fees. Under congressional formula, Medicare fees were cut 5.4% this year. By 2006, the American Medical Association predicts payments will drop another 14%.
I don't mind getting my costs cut as long as everything else goes down. My rent doesn't get cut. My staff wants more money. My surgical supplier keeps increasing me. And, you know, that's just the reality.
It's very hard on the patient.
Kratowski insists he won't drop existing patients. Analysts say the Medicare system needs more money, and Americans need a new perspective on the value of medical care.
We like, as a society, not to pay a lot. We want Tiffany goods at Kmart prices, and that's kind of the American way, and we've been doing that in Medicare.
With baby boomers entering their golden years and more doctors shunning Medicare patients, America's future retirees may have no choice but to spend more of their own money for health care. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.
Insurance for certain things is just as difficult to afford and in some cases impossible to get since September 11th. Cheryl Atkinson has that.
The current insurance policy for the Golden Gate Bridge runs out today. The new policy costs twice as much and gives only 1/4 of the coverage.
If something really significant happens to that bridge, we're going to be going to Washington and Sacramento and having to get help that way.
Blame it on the destruction of September 11th, which forced the insurance industry to swallow its biggest losses ever. It's now struggling to avoid a repeat by hiking rates and dropping coverage for prominent structures and high-risk targets. That means insurance premiums for Giant Stadium in New Jersey have quadrupled, from $700,000 to $2.4 million. Major hotel chains can't get coverage for terrorist acts. Even businesses near high-risk targets are suffering. One law firm close to the White House recently got a letter stating that its new insurance policy will exclude the very coverage in most demand: war, military action, and terrorism. Business leaders are sounding the alarm about the insurance crisis.
We're aware of a number of major projects throughout the country in New York, Washington, Las Vegas, Chicago, that are all in jeopardy because of a lack of coverage.
Rogers argues that could have big economic repercussions nationally.
If not corrected, going forward, we're going to see problems that will affect jobs, employment, and economic growth in the country.
In the case of the Golden Gate Bridge, not only is the new, smaller insurance policy double the cost, but it also excludes acts of terror, making it likely that any disaster would have an even more devastating financial effect.
Many businesses are pushing for a federal law that would transfer losses from terrorist acts away from insurance companies to American taxpayers, providing payment for losses above $10 billion. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, New York.
Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, King of the Apes, Father of Boys. He knows what it takes to be a dad. You go for a ride, you take a swim, you hang out. All it takes is time. Hey, it doesn't take a hero, but it takes a man to be a dad.
The National Institute on Drug Abuse presents a tale about the dangers of drugs entitled Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill went up the hill. Jack said, Jill, let's take these pills. Jill said, Jack, that sounds mad chill. So they took the pills. Then things got ill. Jill got dizzy, and so did he. They both got busy and felt so free. Never did it occur that the other may be the one infected with HIV. When you use drugs, there's no happy ending. Keep your body healthy. Don't use drugs. Check out drugabuse.gov for the real story.
Started back at the gym today. Heidi, how do you do it all? I couldn't do it without Max. The kids, the career. Max helps. And you still get to the gym. You're amazing. I don't do it alone. Come on, Max.
For many blind people, a guide dog makes it possible to do all the things that add up to a full life. It means the freedom to go where they want and do what they want. That's why the law permits guide dogs to go everywhere that's open to the public. To learn more, call the Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind, 1-800-548-4337.
I was in the 6th grade on the honor roll and everything, then I got pregnant. School was not important to me, so I dropped out. And now that I'm 15, I have 2 babies. It's important for me to finish school because I don't want my babies to have to go through the things I went through. I don't want to live off other people for the rest of my life. I want to be somebody. I don't want to live like this.
Britain's Queen Elizabeth II addresses her nation today to thank the tens of thousands who paid final tribute to her mother, the Queen Mum. Dominic Waghorn of British Sky News reports.
By mid-afternoon, this is where the queue began, stretching for 3 miles from Westminster Hall to within sight of St Paul's. Many of these people had already travelled for hours to get here, to be told they could be facing a 10-hour wait ahead of them, though many didn't seem to care.
We've come a long way to see this particular occasion, and why not indeed? We love our king and our king and queen.
It'll be a long wait. It will be. But we'll do it. It'll be worth it to pay our respects.
Probably completely mad, but we'd want to be part of the day. Actually, she was a lovely lady, and hopefully, there's something for the kids to remember when they get older as well.
Those who'd been waiting since the early hours were rewarded with a visit from Prince Andrew, who toured the crowds. And with Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, met with volunteers who've been working round the clock to keep people warm and supplied with tea. Prince Andrew said to be overwhelmed by the public response to his grandmother's death and had come to thank people on behalf of the Queen and royal family. The Queen and Prince Philip attended morning service at the church in Windsor where she and the Queen Mother regularly worshipped. It's thought she may address the nation before the funeral on Tuesday. Other religious services were held across the country in the Queen Mother's memory in St Paul's Cathedral, where prayers were said remembering her many qualities and the many events of her life. And military personnel held special services wherever they were, like this one on board HMS Ocean in the Arabian Sea. Back home, tens of thousands of people keep coming to pay their respects. All day, queues lined both sides of the Thames. Authorities have now decided to keep Westminster Hall open all Monday night till the morning of the funeral.
Now, you'll appreciate the funeral's on Tuesday morning, and I do have to close it then. So my aim between now and then is to try and get everyone who's coming here through. I just hope I don't disappoint anyone.
The long wait and cold winds have been made easier by a friendly spirit of shared experience that's emerged in the crisp sunshine, with none of the normal problems of crowd control.
A very good-natured, very orderly and very charming crowd. I mean, our officers are so gratified to be dealing with people who are well-mannered, polite, don't drop litter, and they really are a charming crowd to deal with.
Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Westminster.
And you're quite a charming crowd to deal with. You're watching CBS News up to the minute.
Sports with Scott Burridge on KOIN 6 News. Complete clear coverage.
Now on CBS News up to the minute. Heavy fighting in the West Bank. Now it spreads to the traditional birthplace of Jesus.
The president is expecting without delay, meaning now.
And Secretary of State Powell carries the president's message of peace to the war zone. Good morning, everyone. This is Up to the Minute. I'm Melissa McDermott. Despite demands from Washington, the United Nations, and world capitals, Israel says the invasion of the Palestinian lands will not end without delay. Reports out of Jerusalem say the Israeli Army's chief of staff told the cabinet the army will require 4 weeks to complete its operation, then 4 weeks after that to withdraw. Yet the fighting intensifies. This morning it centers on one of Christianity's holiest shrines, the traditional birthplace of Jesus. The governor of Bethlehem says Israeli tanks opened fire on the Church of the Nativity. At one point, fire broke out inside, but witnesses say it was hours before the Israeli army allowed firefighters near. The Franciscans who care for the church condemn the attack as, quote, indescribable barbarity. There's also word a Palestinian policeman was killed. About 200 Palestinian fighters have taken refuge in the church since last week. The continued fighting has added urgency to Secretary of State Powell's peace mission to the Middle East. He left last night. He'll arrive in Israel on Friday after stops in Morocco, Egypt, and Spain. CBS's Joey Chin has the latest.
Secretary Powell's top priority to convince the Israelis to pull back from their assault on Palestinian territory, as the president urged Prime Minister Sharon to do on Saturday.
I'm quite sure he understands that message, and the president is expecting without delay, meaning now.
It was a point stressed by the National Security Advisor as well.
The important point is to begin now, without delay, not tomorrow, not when Secretary Powell gets to the region, but now.
Secretary Powell's first meetings this week are with Arab leaders. He wants them to join him in sending a strong message to Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat.
It is high time for everyone to stop showing sympathy for where he is and to tell him that he's got to be called to account to do something for his people, because the conditions of his people are not getting better.
Powell said he will tell Arafat that when they meet face-to-face if circumstances permit. Arafat is surrounded by the Israeli military, and Israel hasn't assured the United States the meeting will take place.
If you're going to try to get people to talk to one another about a ceasefire, then you have to be able to talk to both sides.
The administration doesn't expect Powell's visit will do anything as dramatic as bring peace to the region. But there is a clear sense that this is a pivotal moment for the Middle East, that both sides could use it to take a step away from violence and toward peace, or spiral further into hatred. Joey Chen, CBS News at the White House.
As we mentioned, Secretary of Powell's first stop today will be Morocco, where just yesterday 350,000 people took to the streets to denounce the Israeli invasion. There were pro-Palestinian demonstrations in Barcelona, Spain, Ottawa, and Syria. And Belgium, where 10,000 angry protesters marched through the streets. They burned the flags of Israel and the United States, and some hurled stones at the U.S. Embassy. In the occupied lands, day 11 of the Israeli invasion dawned with no let-up in the fighting. Besides Bethlehem, the bloodiest battles are reported in the crowded refugee camp of Jenin and in the winding alleyways of Nablus-Sold City. CBS's David Hawkins has details.
Helicopter gunships hover over Nablus and Jenin, where Israeli soldiers and tanks stepped up their attacks against Palestinians in the streets below. There are unconfirmed Palestinian reports of massacres in the refugee camps, but they're difficult to verify while Israel prevents reporters from traveling to the 7 West Bank cities under siege. Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon is sticking to his guns, despite a direct call from President Bush to end the invasion and end it now.
We are fully cognizant of the American wish to have this operation end quickly. However, we are working in those cities and villages under very difficult situations.
It is very shameful and very painful to see the heads of 2 major European Western countries plead with a war criminal to stop, and then he thumbs his nose at them and says he will escalate and intensify.
Sharon says he's taking it slowly to limit Israeli casualties, of which there have been few, and minimize the deaths of Palestinian civilians, of which there have been many. The standoff at Bethlehem's Church of the Nativity continues as Christian worshipers who dared defy the curfew were turned back by gunfire.
At 10:30 usually we have our service, and no one was able to come because even some people tried to go out and Israeli soldiers started shooting at them.
More than 500,000 Palestinians are now under siege. Yasser Arafat, their leader, the most famous among them. They're all holding out for the arrival of U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell, but he's not due to get here until Friday. David Hawkins, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
And another terrorist attack, this one half a world away in Colombia. A small bomb went off in the center of a provincial capital, and when a crowd gathered, another much larger bomb went off. At least 12 people were killed. Cars and stores were wrecked and dozens wounded. The government blames Marxist rebels. In other news, April showers are supposed to bring May flowers, but up and down the East Coast, there's barely a drizzle in the forecast. One federal official put it this way: half the U.S. is either in a drought or staring at one. Randall Pinkston has more.
The dry fountain in New York City's Lincoln Center tells the story. So do the low reservoir levels. It's being called the worst drought since the Dust Bowl of the 1930s.
The state has a very significant rain deficit.
Maryland is 12 inches short of water, and it's not alone. Most of the eastern seaboard is dry. Maine is asking to be declared a disaster area. Georgia farmers are being paid not to irrigate, to keep rivers flowing. Forests in Florida are matchstick dry. And there's little water flowing in Frederick, Maryland either. The city's an hour from the nation's capital and has been growing by 30% a year. Now there's a moratorium on building. There just isn't enough water to service the new homes.
But the difficulty is you don't have the ability to make water. You only have the ability to draw water.
The drought's threatening Maryland's huge horticultural industry. Nurseries, garden centers, and landscapers generate $1.2 billion a year in sales. Walt Wickline's family started their nursery a half-century ago.
We are very concerned about any kind of restrictions that would affect our ability to grow and deliver plant material.
The nurserymen applaud the new rules ordering a 10% reduction in water use. But Wickline worries that dire warnings of drought will scare away customers.
The public can become concerned just with the term water restriction and then be afraid to purchase plant material that they would normally do.
State governments are stressing that so far there's no danger of running out of drinking water. The restrictions they are ordering now are intended to keep water supplies as full as possible for as long as possible. After all, this is supposed to be rainy April. But as the sunny days roll by, the rivers are growing thirsty.
Attention, Americans without prescription drug coverage. Don't wait to find out if Medicare will ever cover all your prescriptions or if your employer will ever offer you coverage. Get the People's Prescription Plan today. Members have already saved over $300 million on prescription drugs, eyewear, hearing aids, and more at over 50,000 locations nationwide. Your household is covered for just $8.95 a month with no limits on use, so the savings can really add up. And as a special offer, when you call today, you pay just $3.95 for your first month, a savings of $5 off the regular price. Plus, your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. There are no claim forms or waiting periods. You save right on the spot. So don't wait for the politicians or your employer to decide if they're going to help you with prescription costs. Save now with the People's Prescription Plan.
Call 1-800-315-4554 for free information on the People's Prescription Plan. That's 1-800-315-4554.
Carpet Carl at Marion's Carpet Warehouse, Oregon's largest flooring and rug inventory. Buy carpet and vinyl for only $198 a yard, and for a limited time, 12 months, free interest.
We buy rolls so you pay less at Marion's Carpet.
Dial 503 Carpets.
If a vaccine shortage threatened your loved ones, would you know what to do? If your child breaks out in a mysterious rash, would you know how to react? Coin 6 News medical reporter Christine Miles finds the stories before they break to keep you and your family ahead of the medical headlines. Local health issues, medical breakthroughs, and answers to your questions. Because it matters to you, it matters to Coin 6 News. Health Matters with Christine Miles, weeknights at 5 and only on Coin 6 News.
I'm Christine Miles, Coin 6 News health reporter. Whether it's a Northwest medical breakthrough or simply deciding which hospital is right for your family, you'll find your answers to your health questions. Join me for Health Matters, only on Coin 6 News.
It's 10 past the hour. The war of words continues between Iraq and the U.S. and Great Britain. Meeting with his military commanders, Iraqi President Saddam Hussein pledged Sunday to fight any American-led invasion with all possible means. In his words, the reeds of the marshes, stones, missiles, and airplanes, and with all that we have. After which, British Prime Minister Tony Blair, visiting Texas, issued another warning to Saddam. Jim Acosta reports.
The Prime Minister of Great Britain reassured a packed auditorium his nation stands with the U.S. in the war on terror and in the Middle East crisis. And at the library dedicated to the first President Bush, Tony Blair suggested Saddam Hussein's time is running out. Mr. Blair demanded that weapons inspectors be allowed back into Iraq and offered initial support for the White House policy of a regime change in Baghdad.
The moment for decision on how to act is not yet with us. But to allow weapons of mass destruction to be developed by a state like Iraq without let or hindrance would be grossly to ignore the lessons of September the 11th, and we will not do it.
During the question and answer session, a September 11th survivor thanked the Prime Minister for his support. In his comments, Mr. Blair extended his sympathies.
I want you to know, too, that the British people were with you from the first moment, and we will always be with you at times like those. We're not half-hearted, friends.
It's fitting that Tony Blair gave his speech at a place decorated with a statue that celebrates the fall of the Berlin Wall. Describing the challenges at hand as a tall order, Mr. Blair encouraged the U.S. not to turn its back on the world. Jim Acosta, CBS News, College Station, Texas.
National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice on CBS's Face the Nation repeated President Bush's call to Israel to withdraw immediately from Palestinian areas.
The president had a conversation with Prime Minister Sharon yesterday, Secretary Powell with Prime Minister Sharon this morning, and we expect that General Zinni will see him later in the day. And the message is very clear. Israel is our friend, and this American friend of Israel is saying that it is time to begin the withdrawal without delay because the fundamentals for peace are themselves at risk here. And the president is going to continue to deliver that message, and he expects results.
Well, so far, though, there have been no results. The Israelis show no sign of letting up.
The president and the prime minister had a very candid and good conversation yesterday. The president understands the difficult situation in which Israel finds itself, and indeed he was very strong in supporting Israel's right to defend itself. But that the methods that Israel is now using to defend itself put at risk the longer-term peace. And so the president said to Prime Minister Sharon, I really ask you to listen to me as a friend. I really ask you to think about the consequences of what you're doing here. And it's important, and it must be without delay. The president several times yesterday used the word now.
Is there some kind of timetable here? Will there be consequences if Mr. Sharon continues to ignore the president's call?
I think we need not get into hypotheticals about what might happen next. I think, Bob, the key point here and the clear message to the Israelis is that we understand that a military mobilization of this kind, an operation of this size, cannot be undone in moments. But the important point is to begin now, without delay, not tomorrow, not when Secretary Powell gets to the region, but now, to reverse the situation, because there's a lot at stake here, and Israel is not able to secure itself alone. It needs the support of its neighbors.
So, Dr. Rice, you're saying it has to begin now. If it has to begin now, when does it have to end? When do they have to be done with this withdrawal?
I don't think that we want to try and develop timetables, obviously, as soon as possible. But the important thing is to change the dynamic here. The dynamic on the ground is terrible. And the president spoke on Thursday because he believed that we were at a tipping point. We're at a point at which we're either going to go forward and get back to the more hopeful circumstances in which we found ourselves on Wednesday of just last week, when it looked as if, a little over a week ago, when it looked as if General Zinni was about to get a ceasefire, when the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia's initiative was beginning to gain some steam among the Arab states. We're either going to get back on that path, or this is going to spiral downward. That's why the president spoke. That's why he's sending Secretary Powell to the region, and we believe that we're going to get results.
Dr. Rice, do you believe that you have to get permission from the Israeli cabinet for Secretary Powell to meet with Yasser Arafat?
Secretary Powell hopes to be able to meet with whomever he needs to carry out his mission. And I would just note that General Zenny did meet with Chairman Arafat, and the Israelis facilitated that. Clearly, it has to be facilitated by the Israelis in order for the Secretary to meet with Chairman Arafat. But the Secretary is going to the region with a broad mandate to do what he needs to do, and we expect all parties to cooperate with him.
Condoleezza Rice. With the world watching Ariel Sharon and Yasser Arafat, CBS's Dan Rather now looks at whether these two old enemies will ever agree to make peace.
Arafat knows that if Sharon had his druthers, he would kill him.
Henry Segman, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, has long studied the two men at the center of this Mideast war, Ariel Sharon and Yasser Arafat, two men who've been locked in their own personal vendettas for decades.
These people are profoundly mistrustful of one another, which is to say, they hate one another.
Sharon, the bulldozer, as he is known in Israel, forced to resign in disgrace as defense minister in 1983 after launching a failed offensive into Lebanon that resulted in the massacre of 2,000 Palestinians by Israeli-backed Maronite Christians. They were in refugee camps outside Beirut. Opposed to every peace plan ever proposed, Sharon is the mastermind behind hundreds of Israeli settlements built in the heart of what Palestinians hoped would become their homeland.
He is the granddaddy of the whole settlement movement, and what has played a major role in the distrust, indeed the hatred that exists today between Palestinians and Israelis.
Sharon's nemesis, Yasser Arafat, has gone from a long reputation as ruthless terrorist and leader of the Palestine Liberation Organization to winner of a Nobel Peace Prize for his role in the Oslo Peace Accords, and then back to someone who is unable or unwilling to stop the waves of suicide bombers. Israel believes he encourages, even helps sponsor them.
Arafat is the embodiment of Palestinian nationalism. He is its living incarnation. There is no other Palestinian who plays that role.
Secretary Powell will be seeking peace from two men who are implacable foes. One is seemingly incapable of compromise. The other is a chameleon who talks of coexistence, but surrounds himself with those who seek the elimination of Israel. Are they capable of reaching a true and lasting peace?
Well, I'm convinced that neither Arafat nor Sharon, these are not the two people who can cut the deal. I think that someday, I hope, an agreement will be reached, but these are not the two people who can do it.
Dan Rather reporting from Jerusalem. This is CBS News Up to the Minute.
There is a rhythm to life. We sleep at night and wake in the morning. It's this sleep cycle that helps keep us in a healthy balance. But for millions of Americans, sleep doesn't always come easy. Fortunately, there's Ambien. Ambien is a prescription sleep aid that can help you get a full night's sleep. With Ambien, you fall asleep fast, stay asleep longer, and generally wake without feeling groggy the next morning. No wonder Ambien is the #1 prescribed sleep aid in America. Until you know how Ambien will affect you, you shouldn't drive or operate machinery. Side effects may include drowsiness, dizziness, and diarrhea. You shouldn't take it with alcohol. Patients who abuse prescription sleep aids may become dependent. Prescription sleep aids are most often taken for 7 to 10 days as needed. Your doctor will advise you about taking them longer. Take Ambien only when you can devote a full night to sleep and wake up rested and ready to start your day. Talk to your doctor about Ambien. Ambien works like a dream.
Cancer.
The doctor walked into the room and said, "You have cancer, and it's inoperable. You have only 6 months to live." So I turned to my wife and said, 33 years together is not enough. So I decided to fight, and I started looking for options. Our daughter, who is a nurse, told me about Cancer Treatment Centers of America. It's like no hospital you've ever seen. They treated me, the whole person, not just my tumor, with the latest medical technology, nutrition, and supplements to stimulate my immune system to fight my cancer.
To find out about alternative treatment options at our hospitals, call toll-free 1-800-931-0599.
It's been 7 years now. I beat cancer, and so can you.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America, winning the fight against cancer every day.
Welcome back. It's now 20 past the hour. Top stories on Up to the Minute. Gunfire kills a Palestinian policeman trying to put out a fire at the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem early this morning. The fire apparently started when Israeli troops tossed a stun grenade into the compound. The UN Security Council debates the Middle East again today as Secretary of State Colin Powell begins a peace mission to the region. The Council Sunday demanded Israel withdraw from Palestinian territory. And NASA has scheduled the Space Shuttle Atlantis for launch late this afternoon. Forecasters say there's a 40% chance high winds could force a postponement. On the CBS Market Watch, a judge in Delaware reserved decision on whether to throw out a lawsuit that seeks to halt Hewlett-Packard's merger with Compaq Computers. Dissident director Walter Hewlett claims HP improperly enticed a big investor to back the merger and misled investors about plans to integrate the two companies. Shareholder votes on the merger are still being counted. As for the markets, Alexis Christoforous has our report.
Investors will be greeted with a fresh batch of profit reports and some telling economic numbers this week. Look for reports on March retail sales and inflation at the wholesale level. Later this week, JetBlue is scheduled to take flight on Wall Street. The New York-based discount airline plans to offer 5.5 million shares at an estimated price range of $22 to $24. JetBlue has grabbed Wall Street's attention because of its pricing structure and flight schedule. Overall, airline stocks have been gaining ground from their lows following the September 11th attack. On Wall Street, stocks will try to redeem themselves after a losing week. A mixed unemployment report made for a shaky day of trading. On Friday, the Dow rose 36 points, but fell a little more than 1% for the week. The Nasdaq slipped 19 points and lost more than 4% for the week under the weight of profit warnings. We'll continue to watch oil. The price of crude eased to around $26 a barrel Friday, despite the ongoing tensions in the Middle East. And the bankrupt retailer Kmart will ask a federal judge for approval to pay its new CEO James Adamson as much as $2.25 million in annual salary and bonuses. Kmart says Adamson's compensation would be based on the company meeting certain financial goals. You can track all of the pre-market action by clicking on to cbs.marketwatch.com. At the NASDAQ, I'm Alexis Christoforous in New York.
Checking your forecast, showers in Oregon, but the rest of the West stays dry. Showers and thunderstorms up and down the Mississippi Valley and in the Ozarks. Rain from the Great Lakes through northern New England. High temperatures today, 30s and 40s across the north, 50s and 60s from the west coast through the Central Plains to the northeast and mid-Atlantic. 70s and 80s across the south and into Kentucky and West Virginia. 90s in the Texas Big Bend. In sports this morning, the defending world champion Arizona Diamondbacks showed off one of their brightest jewels on the mound. Curt Schilling was all but unstoppable Sunday against the Brewers. Schilling struck out a career-high 17 batters in just his second one-hitter. No one who faced him reached second base, and no Brewers crossed home as the D-backs won 2-zip. Red Sox pitcher Pedro Martinez struck out 5 on the hill against the Baltimore Orioles. Martinez, who's been battling shoulder pain, allowed 1 unearned run in this game that saw the 3-time Cy Young winner finally returning to form. Shea Hildebrand hit 2 two-run home runs. Accounting for all of Boston's runs, the Sox win 4-1. And the last PGA tournament before Wednesday's start of the Masters went to South African Retief Goosen. Check this one out. On the par 5 fourth, a 90-foot chip. It's in the hole. An eagle for Goosen and the tournament as well. He finished with a total 16 under, 4 strokes better than Jasper Parnevik.
And this time it's the Bell South Classic.
always get more at the Bedroom Superstore. Buy any bedroom and you get the bed, the mattress, the frame, the dresser, mirror, and nightstand all at one low price. And this week, pay absolutely zero interest till the year 2005. Plus, get 2-day express delivery on anything in stock.
The Bedroom Superstore, where America buys its bedrooms for less.
When you look for complete, clear, local coverage, look to Coin 6
Has
News.
ended peacefully.
Staying at home.
18-year-old driver that slammed into the car was arraigned this afternoon.
Covering your neighborhood. Focusing on the news that directly affects your family.
The district says there's plenty of room.
Coin 6 News.
Police say
Concentrating our efforts on a concentrated area.
A Democrat just said it would pass over his dead body.
Giving you complete, clear, local coverage. Look to Coin 6 News.
Hi, I'm Patricia Heaton. As the mother of 4 sons, I know how important it is for babies to get a healthy start. But today, more than 1,200 babies won't be so lucky because they're born premature. Some are so small they fit in the palm of the hand and struggle just to survive. But the March of Dimes is there, helping them win their fight. Won't you help? Join March of Dimes Walk America and be a hero for the tiniest babies. Call 1-800-525-WALK and register today.
This is me, and my mom and dad, and my big brother Alex, and Jack. This is the day I learned that sandals got their name from sand, and that the ocean is bigger than all of us. This is the day we all got to forget I was sick. This was my wish.
What will you be driving to work today? Andy Rooney picked up a few ideas at the annual car show in New York City. We just can't really tell if he liked anything.
About once every 10 years, I go to the automobile show to check up on what's happening to cars. The biggest change this year is a trend away from what we used to call streamlined. A lot of the new cars are boxy, squarer than round. They have more room inside, even if they're smaller outside, carry more junk. They haven't done away with curved cars, but streamlined looks old-fashioned now. The companies try different ways to attract attention to their cars at the show. They often have semi-beautiful girls talking endlessly and unconvincingly about it. They put cars on piles of fake rocks. They cut cars in half. There was a mysterious mud-covered pickup. I don't know what they're doing to this poor Dodge, but it doesn't make me want to buy one. There were quite a few four-door cars with back doors that opened the wrong way. I'd worry about the door flying open. You can't always tell which way a car goes. This is the front, believe it or not. This Bentley was the most expensive car at the show, $370,000. They only made 150 of these, so hurry in if you want one. The best time I had was riding something called a Segway human transporter. They need a new name for it, but it was a good way to look at the show. Has a gyroscopic stabilizing system. You lean forward to go forward, backward to back up. Travels 3 times as fast as you walk. It'll cost $3,000, and I want one for Christmas. One car had 2 television sets. I wonder if there's one for the driver. Sometimes you can't even tell the make of the car. This is called a Scion. Nowhere on it does it say it was made by Toyota. What are they hiding? This is called a Z. I asked what Z stood for.
Doesn't really stand for anything. It was just a cool letter we chose.
This British Mini Cooper is the big hit at the show, only 11 feet long. Nice, but the American flag shouldn't be used to sell anything but America. There's always an experimental electric car at the show. Electric cars have been just around the corner since I was in high school. There are 180 million Americans old enough to drive a car, but we have 200 million cars. 60 million families own more than one. 20 million own 3 or more, if you wonder why the rest of the world hates us. The one thing car owners need most, that they don't have any of at the car show, is parking space.
Andy Rooney. This is CBS News Up to the Minute.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
Experience you can trust. CBS News.
morning. It's Monday, April 8th. From CBS News in New York City, I'm Melissa McDermott. Here's what's happening. Bethlehem's Church of the Nativity, where tradition says Jesus was born, has come under fire. Up to 200 Palestinian militants took refuge in the church in Manger Square 7 days ago. A Palestinian inside the church says a policeman was shot dead by an Israeli sniper. Secretary of State Colin Powell, heading to the Middle East this morning, is cautioning not to expect a miracle. Powell says his trip will be a success if he can bring down the level of violence and get the Israelis and Palestinians talking again.
Whatever the level of violence is today, what we know for sure is that it must go down to a level where the two sides can start talking to one another, because the only solution is a political solution, one that will allow both peoples to live in peace in separate states, one a Jewish state called Israel, the other one a Palestinian state called Palestine.
Powell arrives in Morocco today. He's due in Jerusalem late in the week for talks with Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. Right now, Powell has no definite plans to meet with Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. President Bush has called for Israel to halt its assault and pull out of occupied Palestinian areas. Instead, the Israelis have escalated their attacks. In Nablus, Israeli tanks are in action, as are combat troops in the winding alleys of the Kasbah. CBS News correspondent Elizabeth Palmer is there.
Almost nothing moved in the streets of Nablus, and this is why. Rockets rained from the sky as Israeli Apaches circled and attacked. Tanks blocked the streets below. This once prosperous West Bank center has become a ghost town under siege. Khalid Hizazi came here to teach a course at Nablus University. Now he and his daughter are trapped in a local hotel.
It was very bad. It was Apache bomb and tank bomb in the old city too. She cannot sleep. She's afraid.
Down the road, hospital staff were waiting anxiously to receive the injured. For head doctor Samar Rida, the sound of shooting is by now familiar background noise.
In the old city we have fighters wounded, but they can't get to our hospitals. Ambulances are forbidden to bring them to our hospitals.
Earlier, he told us the Israelis did allow one ambulance through with 11 members of the same family, all wounded when an Israeli tank shelled their house.
And you see this child, this small, he's injured and he has shrapnels all around his body. Look at that kid next to her lying. Look at his eyes and head.
From here on the balcony at the Nablus hospital, you can see down into the old city, where hundreds of Palestinian fighters are hiding and being fired on hourly by Apache helicopters. Deep inside the warren of alleys of the old city, armed Palestinian fighters are hiding and waiting for the Israelis to attack. We're surrounded by snipers, they say. Some of the fighters have been hit, but their bodies can't be collected. Those who live here are trapped, panicked, and mad with grief. As hospital staff watched from the balcony, the Apache helicopters came back, apparently determined to finally shatter this hard core of Palestinian resistance. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, Nablus.
The King of Jordan has a warning about Middle East violence.
If you sit back in America and say, this is not my problem, then all you're doing is delaying any chance that we have in eradicating extremism or terrorism.
King Abdullah tells Dan Rather he welcomes President Bush's call for an Israeli pullout without delay from occupied areas, but he wants to see action on the ground as quickly as possible. And a tough new warning to Saddam Hussein. British Prime Minister Tony Blair says the Iraqi dictator must allow UN weapons inspectors in anytime, any place, or face the consequences.
The moment for decision on how to act is not yet with us. But to allow weapons of mass destruction to be developed by a state like Iraq without let or hindrance would be grossly to ignore the lessons of September the 11th, and we will not do it.
Tony Blair speaking at Texas A&M after spending the weekend with the president at his ranch in Crawford, Texas. In Iraq, Saddam Hussein issued a message of defiance. He says his country will confront any military attack with all possible means, with missiles, warplanes, stones, even reeds from marshes. Sunday marked the 6-month anniversary of the start of the U.S.-led war against terrorism in Afghanistan. And it was during the past week that some of the American forces involved in the campaign got the most welcome news of all. CBS News correspondent Lee Cowan reports from Bagram Air Base.
After all the long days in battle, after all the countless days waiting for battle, the clock that ticks the loudest in the mind of a soldier away from home finally ticked down to zero for one very happy group. Right to the very heart of it, New York, New York! New York's 10th Mountain Division is finally leaving Afghanistan after being some of the first to arrive to fight in Operation Anaconda.
Feeling pretty good about it, though. Oh, yes. Yes, morale is like on a way up scale right now.
It was the worst battle of the war so far, and the first time most of these troops had ever fired a shot at something more than a paper target. Private Ryan Slattery.
I'm a young man. I was thinking there's still a whole bunch of stuff I really got to do, and just praying, hoping we'd all turn okay. I think a whole bunch of us got religious after all this experience.
In the end, 8 American soldiers died, most in a single day.
Roger.
Private Hugo Torres.
Goes every day thinking about that could have been me. That could have been one of us. That could have been my buddy next to me. I just thank God that it wasn't me and finally get to go home.
Most say they've seen enough dirt and rocks and mountains here to last them a lifetime. But for many, their deployment might as well have been a lifetime. Most haven't been home since September 11th.
Are you guys ready to go home?
Only those who have been here know just how long the flight home must have seemed. The mix of emotions, the anticipation of a hero's welcome, the fear of living up to it, or worse, the thought their time at home just might not last. But as Private Chris Upp put it,
any normal person would say, I don't want to go back out again, but if we have to, heck yeah, fighting for our country.
A country that ended the week with a few more heroes home. This is Lee Cowan in Bagram, Afghanistan.
By the tens of thousands, people in London continue to wait hours to pay their respects to the Queen Mother. Lying in state at Westminster Hall, she died last week at the age of 101. More than 200,000 mourners have filed past the coffin. The Queen Mom's funeral is Tuesday at nearby Westminster Abbey. And we're back in a few minutes. This is CBS News, up to the minute.
I love being a paramedic. I love helping people. But I'd get to the call, and I was too overweight. I'd feel like I had to use the oxygen for myself. It was like carrying a sandbag around my waist. I've tried other diets. The Slim Fast plan really works. The website lays it all out for you. It's easy. You can take it anywhere. It's right there. The shakes are really good for me. Slim Fast has the protein and carbs that I need. I feel more physically fit. The energy is a big help. I can do my job better. Knowing that I've helped somebody, it's the best feeling in the world.
Slim Fast. It's your life. Feed it right.
You're not going to take a PM to help you fall asleep.
Huh?
Well, do you have a backache? Headache? How about fever? Then why take a PM with an extra medicine commonly used to treat aches, pains, and fever?
Oh.
Unisom Sleep Gels has the same amount of the same ingredient to help you fall asleep without the extra medicine. So, when you just need sleep, safe, non-habit-forming Unisam's just what you need.
Meet Betsy and her favorite blouse that she always washed in Woolite to help keep it looking like new, convincing her to go for the job that led to the trip and the party where she was mistaken for a star. Thanks, Woolite. Woolite, and your clothes will love you back.
You're skipping over some of your favorite stuff. I get more gas than I used to. Did you ever try Beano? No. Has this natural enzyme that helps prevent gas. So I can eat? Yes, ma'am. I'm going to start over. Prevent gas with Beano.
What's your mood food connection like? Help on how to stop eating because you're down. Wake up to what's happening coming up on The Early Show with Bryant Gumbel and Jane Clayson.
Want to keep an eye on your money? Now there are 3 great places to get the best in financial news. On CBS Television, CBS Radio, and on the web at cbs.marketwatch.com. Follow your portfolio, and when you're ready, trades are just a click away. CBS News, your eye on the market.
It's 40 minutes past the hour. 1 year after a white Cincinnati police officer shot and killed an unarmed black man running from police, hundreds of protesters gathered to mark the anniversary and demand the city do more to hold police accountable. The shooting sparked Cincinnati's worst rioting since the 1968 assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. It also led to a tourism boycott by several activist groups. City officials say much has changed since the shooting, but not everyone agrees. Cynthia Bowers brings us up to date.
This was the scene